Coach PJ here. I'm always interested to see how folks make a living and then how folks live within their means. Here's a video of a young woman who is considered Gen Z, which means she was born after 1996, I believe. So the oldest of that generation is about 22, and then they go down into their teens. And Generation Z in Chicago, which is where I live. So let's see what they do with their money and how they make ends meet, making $93,000, which is not shabby.
I am very aware of my privilege. I grew up very comfortable. My parents are extremely generous. And I think for me, that definitely places me at like a highest starting point than the rest of my peers. And because of that, I try to internalize that as much as possible and use it as like a driving force as to why I need to work that much harder because I've been given so much. My name is Chloe Tan. I'm 21 years old and I made $93,000 last year as an international student in Chicago, Illinois. I am half Singaporean, half Chinese Indonesian, Singaporean by nationality, and I moved to Shanghai when I was around 3 years old, and I stayed there until I was 17, where I moved to Chicago. I'm an international student at the University of Chicago studying economics and data science, and I'm a rising senior.
Couple quick things. She's a student and she's making 93,000. So let's just start there. That is not the norm. Most students that I know, most students that I'm aware of, are either broke or just living, on their parents' income. So I find that interesting that we're really looking at someone who is making a go at it and working really hard, both at her studies and at a part-time side hustle job. Let's take a look at what she's doing to make the money.
I first started tutoring in 2016 to 2017. I have a younger brother who's 4 years younger than I am. And one day he and his friends came over and they were looking to prep for a debate competition. I was just nosy and I asked them if they'd like some help. And after that, week by week, they would start gradually bringing more and more friends over. And at some point, my mom said, hey, maybe, you can consider starting, to tutor some of them. And that's kind of where it started. They are international students studying in Shanghai, and I prep them for the International Baccalaureate English Literature honors level curriculum. There's always been a really strong demand for tutoring at a really high level in Shanghai, I think, and especially catered towards, international students. And now I've actually been more selective, and there's a bit of a waiting list right now for some of my classes. So as of now, I spend around 5 to 6 hours of actual tutoring per week. It probably takes me an hour to 2 hours per week to prep for this as well. And because of the obvious time zone difference, I schedule all of them to be on my Friday nights.
Interesting. She's actually tutoring remotely, it appears, because she's tutoring in Shanghai or in Singapore, I'm not certain which, but she's tutoring international students. She's also making $67 an hour, which is pretty good wage for a student at this point in her life. That's $67, and she's making very efficient use of her time. I always look at side hustles and say, this one was presented to her. It was something she was doing. It was something she was already passionate or good at, and it turned into, why not monetize this? That's the best way to get into a side hustle, and it guarantees that you're already really good at what you're doing or you're generating the demand. That's not generally the issue. It's just monetizing it. So let's see what she does with her budget.
My university tuition fees are pretty astronomical. My parents are very generous, and I am super privileged and grateful to have them pay for my college for me. And last quarter, they paid over $20,000 in school fees. My parents don't pay for anything consistently monthly, and that's because I asked them to instead hand me a sum of money that I can, embed into my own income and allocate as I see fit. So I pay for my own rent, utilities, discretionary, transportation, et cetera, et cetera. And a big part of that reason is because I feel like my parents have done so much for me, and the minimum I could do is at least during college when I feel like there is a bit more, like a safety net, a buffer before you're officially set out into the real world. This is like the best time for me to learn how to manage my like household income and like spending. All of my monthly income goes directly into savings, and I would take $1,000 to $2,000, and that would usually last me however much it does. I could,
So she does live a life of privilege. She does have her parents helping her, which not all 22-year-olds do or 20-year-olds do. So she does have that. I find it interesting that she spends $785 on shopping. Don't know whether that's grocery shopping or clothes shopping or what she's buying, but that's a big number, especially for a student. But she is making $93,000, so that certainly offsets that amount she's spending. But she is trying to learn how to spend and trying to learn how to budget, which is admirable for a young person. And it's an important life skill. Let's keep watching.
think in the US, people make a lot of assumptions about you based on how much money they think you have. Some people on campus think I like dress a little bit too flashy, and some people don't care about it at all. And I probably fall into that latter category. My mom is super generous and passing down all of her like luxury designer things that she no longer uses. Like everything nice I own is essentially a gift or passed down by her. These are gifts and things that have been given to me by my parents, and I am very grateful for them. And I wear them because it reminds me of them, and not because I'm trying to like flex it. I don't have to spend too much money on new things, but I think a good example of something I did spend money on would be a pair of shoes. I bought a pair of very expensive heels 4 months ago because I don't own a single pair of heels, and I thought it might be time to invest in a nice pair. So I bought a pair. That pair of heels cost me just over $1,000, and they're definitely the most expensive thing I bought for myself. It took me 2 months to budget for, but hey.
I love the way she says she budgeted for the shoes. That is awesome. Not very realistic to spend $1,000 on shoes, but she budgeted for them. They were in her budget. She's making the money. That's how she chooses to spend it. That's fantastic. I think she called the shoes an investment. That's an interesting way to put it, considering it's a depreciating asset or investment. It's only going to get worn and not appreciate, but more or less depreciate. But it's something she has the money for. She clearly budgeted. She didn't just go out on a whim and get herself upside down in her budget. She looked at it, said she wanted it, and saved for it. So that's extremely admirable. Let's keep watching.
You know how politicians say that there's like a holy trinity, like triangle, right? You have like sleep, and you have social life, and you have academics. Well, for me, I've chosen everything but sleep. So I have ADHD, and the main way that that affects my productivity is I feel like instead of having energy like rises and dips throughout the day, I have them throughout the week, and sometimes throughout like 2 to 3 weeks. Like sometimes I would feel extremely motivated for the span of like 2 days, and I'd be able to get like a week's worth of work done in like those two specific days. And then for the rest of the week, I would just be in a slump and just not do anything. And so for me right now, the way I balance my life is I will dedicate full days to kind of like to emulate like tech sprints. So I'll have a full 2 to 3 days of the week where I only focus on like academic work. And then I have a full 1 to 2 days of the week where I just fully focus on my hobbies, where I just fully like go like watch anime or read manga or like catch up on TV shows or paint. And that's kind of how I divide my time. It's a little bit unconventional, and it only really works out because I have more control over my time right now because I'm a college student. I applied to UChicago early decision round one, and so I think among all the schools in the U.S., UChicago is definitely my top pick. But the other top contender was Oxford University. My parents were unequivocally like supportive of anything I chose, which is amazing. And I picked here because I think I wanted to work in the U.S. more after college. So first of all, if you're in a STEM field, it is significantly easier for you to get a work visa. I'm really lucky in that that aligns with my interests and I'm able to pursue that. That may not be the case for everybody. And the second of all is that you can really apply to large companies that can sponsor your visa. I would want to, in the perfect world, to go into the tech field with a larger tech company that would be able to sponsor my visa. Hypothetically, if you wanted to work for like a startup after you graduate as an international student, that's virtually impossible. As a result, I feel like a lot of international students are kind of funneled towards, larger companies with very established systems. And I don't know, I feel like that personally has affected my career choices, and I think it's probably the same for a lot of other international students. I think for me, as of now, it's pretty easy to like live within my means and live within my income. But that's with the mindset that I'm like a privileged college student living like a comfortable life. And that's also me, saying this with like the knowledge that if anything were to occur, my parents would be there as like a support system for me. My dream job straight out of college would be a product manager at a tech company. Ideally, something customer facing, so designing a product for like customers to use. I think that'd be just very fun. My personal savings goal is to save $300,000 by the time I'm 27. There's no particular reason why I chose the number 27. I just felt like I wanted it to be like after 25, but then not 30 just yet. I'm just kind of like 27 out of thin air. There's not a specific purpose that I'm saving this money for, but ideally it would go to something like a mix of like business school or grad school and down payment for a house.
So it's clear she has goals and what she wants to accomplish, which is awesome. And I always find it interesting, and I don't know how you feel about this, but she's got $70,000 in her savings, and she's saving that while her parents are putting out $250,000. That seems a little bit kind of off, at least for me, from my vantage point, that if you're able to save $70,000, why are you not contributing more towards your education, which is your investment in yourself? That's where you should be putting your money. Now, she has parents who can pay and have parents who are willing to pay, so that's more of a personal question or personal preference. But I do find it interesting that she is saving that money when she's having her parents are being generous and paying for her university, and she has some of that money to invest in herself. So just a difference of opinion on that one. If you liked what I had to say, comment, subscribe, like below. Your business profit. Until next time.